Hello, good afternoon, everyone. I can see a few of you joining now. So, hello, good afternoon. Thank you for joining. We'll give it a couple of minutes just to allow for everyone to jump on this afternoon, and then we can jump into the HSI Hands HQ RAMS demo. So, showing you all how to create better RAMs in less time. Just as a bit of housekeeping, you should all hopefully be able to see a bar at the bottom of your screens, I think, which will give you access to the chat. Any questions that you have as we run through the webinar today, as we run through the demo, and also feel free to ask any questions as we go through. It would actually be really useful to hear from some of you before we start as well. Obviously, today we're going to be looking at risk assessments and method statements and how we can make that process a lot easier, more straightforward, move in lots of the sort of manual efforts to do so. So let me know in the chat, how are you currently managing your risk assessments and method statements? So how are you doing them? Is it Word, copy and paste, templates? Still use pen and paper? So yeah, let me know in the chat, how are you writing RAMs? But also, let me know what your biggest challenges are, what your biggest frustrations. Be really useful for me as we go through the webinar today. I can show you certain features maybe that are more relevant to some of you individually. So yeah, let me know in the chat or in the Q&A. John, thanks for your message there. Either or would be great. So what we've got, John, Google Sheets templates. Roger, looks like you're using Excel spreadsheets. Cool. Definitely able to help you there. Molly as well, Excel templates. Let us know what's some of your biggest frustrations. I mean, typically we tend to see that's around about the amount of time that it takes, inconsistencies, as John said, keeping them up to date. Yeah, let us know what are some of those biggest frustrations or areas of improvement you want to see. We'll give it just a few more minutes. I'm usually joined by Rob, unfortunately. Well, not unfortunately for him, but he's on holiday this week. So just be myself today running through the system. It's going to be about a 20-minute session. We'll run through the system in the 20 minutes. Any questions that we have towards the end, then obviously happy to answer your questions. If then you want to find out about pricing or have wider demos with the rest of the team, then either myself or one of the team will be in touch later on today, and we can book in those sessions to sort of do a bit of a deeper dive into the system, really understand your use case, and make sure that we can tick all the boxes for you. So just a bit of history on HSI HandsHQ. So we have been going for around about 13 years. Initially started working with quite small businesses, those where the managing director would do all of the work actually on site, getting the hands dirty, but then also writing all of the risk assessments and all of the other paperwork. We realized that obviously that is a huge time sap for a lot of businesses. HandsHQ came along, we're able to help those sort of smaller businesses. But what we realized quite quickly, actually, regardless of the size of the organization, if you're writing risk assessments and method statements, pretty much everyone has the same problem. And luckily, the system we created, very straightforward, easy to use, and it's a very scalable product as well. So work across lots of different countries now as well, but different size businesses. Still, they're small businesses all the way up to sort of like multinational enterprise size organizations. Cool. Well, I think that's pretty much most of the people that we might have joining today. There might be a few people that come late, but we've got the recording, so we'll get that sent out to you. And also for anyone else on your team that might want to see the system, then there'll be a recording as well. But let's jump in. Any questions that you have, feel free to whack those into the chat for anyone that's just joined. Happy to answer questions as we go through. A few other comments that we've seen here from John and Roger. John, frustrations of keeping risk assessments up to date. Roger, and the amount of time that it takes. So let's show you today how you can get consistency, high quality documents, more engagement from the team, easier processes for keeping them up to date. So from that compliance angle, but then also cherry on the top, how can we save you a huge amount of time? Hopefully everyone can see my screen. Let me know in the chat if you can't. So HandsHQ is a web-based and a cloud-based platform. As long as you've got your internet connection, you can log in to create, update, manage, distribute any risk assessments and meta statements. When you log in, the first page you come to is your dashboard. This is going to give you an overview of all of your RAMs, all of your projects, as we would usually refer to them as. So RAMs being a project or a job. So you can see how many jobs you currently got live, which RAMs have been approved and which ones haven't, which ones have received signatures and the other ones that haven't as well. There's the ability to split the HandsHQ system into multiple divisions. Now, the reason why this is really useful for a lot of our customers is they might have different disciplines at the business. Like there might be a mechanical side and an electrical side, or a civil side and a plumbing side. As a result, the risk assessments and method statements created for both of those might be slightly different. As a result, they want a separate area where they've got a library of risk assessments, which is specific to each business unit. You can have everything under one roof if you wanted to. Equally, we also see businesses where they might split it based on their different locations. So they might have a slightly different depot in different places around the country. And as a result, they want their own area to create their own risk assessments and meta statements. So when we're in a division, the first page that we come to is our sort of dashboard breakdown. Really straightforward here. Every line item is essentially a different RAMS document. So you can see the name of the RAMS, what folder it belongs to. So within a division, you can then create folders. Typically, customers usually do it by client. So a client might have a folder, and then within that folder, you can then see all of the RAMs that have been created for that client or possibly project. When the documents are updated, is the risk assessment up to date, or are there certain elements that might be out of date? This all links with the risk register, where you can centrally manage all of your content. We'll touch upon that later. Review dates. If you're like a logistics company or a manufacturing site and you're creating RAMs for certain procedures, not for projects, and obviously you're not going to create a brand new one every single time that you do a process or a procedure. So what a lot of our customers do is they'll create a RAMs for a particular task and then have it on a review date. So it might be every 6 months, for example, every year that RAMs needs to be reviewed and then maybe sent out to the team to sign off on those updates. Approval workflow as well. We'll go through this in more detail in a minute. This is internal approvals rather than external. And then also signatures. So has it been signed by everyone that's going to be carrying out the task, effectively mitigating that risk as much as possible for you as a business, ensuring that everyone has signed off on documents that are applicable. But let's actually go into the process of producing a RAMS. So it's a really straightforward process. It's a 4-step process. The ease of use of navigating from start to finish is extremely easy. This sort of lays into that engagement piece that I was talking about earlier, making sure you're getting the right people creating RAMs and making it an easy process. We find that if RAMs are produced in an easy manner, then more people will get involved, adding to that engagement. The first step is really straightforward, just adding in the project details for the job. So let's just call this webinar RAMs for now. We can add in what folder it belongs to. So we could say, yeah, this is part of our Gatwick Airport RAMS, job reference number, start and end dates for projects. So we could say this job starts on the 5th and finishes in July. We can add in client details. Let's say HandsHQ is the client. And also we can add in our locations of work as well. A really cool feature is you've got the ability to add in your postcode, and the system will then give you a list of all of the nearest A&Es and actually pull that map through as well. This will be included on the final method statement as well. So once we've added in all those details, we can then move through to the next step. It's worthwhile mentioning as well for some of our larger customers where they need a bespoke setup, those field names and types where the information goes in the titles of those, we can change those, mirror your sort of existing setup, the information that you want to capture at that stage. So the second step is where we come through to the risk assessment library. The library that we're seeing here, this is the standard preloaded library that pretty much anyone would get access to when they sign up to HandsHQ, whether it's one of our smallest packages or one of our largest. However, as we scroll through this, if you look at it and go, hang on a minute, we don't do any of that work or we don't need that, that's fine. What we do is we run a full onboarding process where we can take all of your risk assessments you already have and we can build out this library for you based on your content. So make it very specific to you as an organization. So let's say, for example, your site managers or your project managers are going through the process of writing the RAMs. All we're asking for them to do is go through this library and select what's relevant. So we could say, right, arrival and departure from site is the first hazard that they've identified. They can select this and then go into edit. They'll then see all of the associated risk assessments for arrival and departure from site. You can deselect anything that's not applicable, leave those selected that are, click edit, and this is where you can make some site-specific changes. It's really straightforward to make those changes. Often, obviously, we know a lot of the time that RAMs would be rejected by clients because they're not specific enough. The reason why people don't make them specific is the process to do so just takes so long to do it. It's taken them 45 minutes to find those risk assessments from earlier projects, copy and paste it, etc., do all the formatting, and then they need to make it site specific. I think a lot of people in our research just want to cut corners and get to submitting the RAMs as quick as possible so they don't make those site-specific changes. But here, it's really straightforward to do. You've got your 5x5 risk matrix, control measures, and then your residual risk as well. There is also the ability to add images. So any images, maybe of those hazards or the actual control measures themselves, you can add those in there as well. So we can update. We've made those site-specific changes, move back to the library, and you continue to build this risk profile around the job by selecting tasks and risk assessments, hazards that are applicable. So, we could be doing some working at heights. We're going to be working with some step ladders. And then as we scroll down, we can go, okay, we're going to be doing some electrical work today and, installing some new lighting. As mentioned, for anyone that's just joined, this library, preset library, we can remove anything you don't need. We can add your own risk assessments that you want in here as well. As a good example, we've got some customers that are like events customers. We've got a huge variety of events customers actually that are doing, setting up stages and rigging up lighting. We don't have that in the library, but they've given us that risk assessments and we've been able to pull that into their system, their content and their content only. Once you've selected those risk assessments, you come through to the next step, which is our sequence operations. So the way that you would like the team to go about completing the job in the safest possible way. This is the first step of the method statement. It's the first half of it. Because we have selected electrical, it's then pulled through our electrical tasks. So everything's linked. If we select working at height, then if we had certain working at height methodologies, which you don't in here, a standard, then it will pull that through. If we select electrical, it's pulled through electrical, so the system understands what those previous selections were. You select the task that you're doing, it will then give you that step-by-step process as to how to complete that job in the safest way. Once again, if you have that methodology, we will pull that into the system for you. You can drag and drop the ordering around, deselect anything that's not applicable, and you can edit any of this info in here as well. And also upload any images. If you wanted to make this more pictorial, then you can. Then finally, last step is where we come through to the method statement. So all of the fields that have been preloaded in here with the content is all pre-populated and linked to those risk assessments as well. So once again, as an example, if you would select working at height, it might pull through working at height legislation. So we pull through manual handling, then it might pull through an image that you've preloaded or a PDF document which shows how to pick up a box in the safest possible way. So it's all about giving your team that information up front rather than them having to go and search for it. But not only are you giving them all that information, it's all relevant. So it's only being pulled through if it's relevant to actually what they're looking at that point. You can edit any of this information. So as with any step, you can make it all site specific. You can also remove anything that maybe isn't applicable. You can add images, PDF documents. Typically, our customers might upload certificates, drawings, maps, insurance details, training, lots of different options in terms of what our customers add at this point. As we scroll through the library, we then come through to, as we scroll through the method statement, there is the ability to do cost assessments, which I'll show you in a minute. And then we've also got PPE requirements. So you can select the different types of PPE that are applicable for the job. When we hit next, that is essentially us done. Now, there is the ability to create a review date. So as I mentioned before, if you're on a long-term project and maybe the customer wants you to review it every month, every 3 months, then you can schedule a review date and assign it to a member of your team. If it's the case that these are RAMs to be used on your sites internally, at your offices, manufacturing sites, whatever it might be, then there's the ability to be able to schedule a review date, sign it to a member of the team. They'll then receive a notification when it needs to be reviewed. But that is us done. So we've completed our RAMs, which I'll show you the final document in a minute. There's a few bits to do from here in terms of just finishing off the document. So first things first to mention, all of the RAMs that you create in Hands HQ are live documents. And what we mean by that is if at any point that risk assessment needs to be updated, changed, reviewed, and made some changes, then you could jump back in here and you can add working in confined spaces as a new risk assessment, click save and exit. You've added that new risk assessment. The system will ask you, why have you made that update? So we could say updated RAMs due to a near miss on, it could be a specific site. All of these changes and updates that you make to that particular RAMS will all be notified and logged within the system. So you can see here that this RAMS when we created it, but when we've edited it, and the reason why we've edited it as well. So great for compliance purposes, document control, ISO, audits, etc. You've got all of that information backed up in here. First, jump onto cost assessments. Any questions, then feel free to throw those in. So Kosh, what we realized with Kosh is that even less people knew how to create a Kosh assessment than they did a risk assessment. The one thing that I'd say about Kosh is that what we have is more of a feature rather than a product. If you're using some really dirty and dangerous substances, you might already have a Kosh register or a software. I would say it might be worth keeping that. If you don't and you're doing it very manually and it's just like some standard substances you've got on site like paint, WD-40, mastic, etc., and all that sort of stuff that's not really, really dangerous, and this is a great feature which will save you so much time. We've got a library of about 16,000 different substances. If anything's ever missing from the library, all you've got to do is send us a safety data sheet and we'll upload it into the system. You can then search for the substance. You find the right one, hit add cost. It's going to ask you a couple of questions. So how much you're going to have on site? What's the method of use? Who's at risk? You're basically just going through and answering the questions. Add your cost. And then what that would do is it pulls together all the information that you've input, all the info from the safety data sheet, and we'll attach that to the end of the RAMs, which I'll show you in a moment. Cool. So what we've done here is we have created our risk assessment and method statement, and obviously we made an edit to it as well. We have added our cost assessments. The natural sort of next step from here to do is for the project manager, whoever it might be, to send this to approval. It could be to the manager, it could be to the health and safety team. What would happen is, in this case, I'm the health and safety manager. I get an email to say that Joe Blogs has created webinar RAMs. Could you please read and review? I can review the document. If I'm happy with it, I can say, yes, best RAMs ever, hopefully. Approve that document. That's then me as the authorized approver giving a thumbs up to say, yes, this document is suitable and sufficient for site. It's now ready to be sent out to the rest of the team who are actually doing the job, and get them to get their signature against it as well. So on that note, so the RAM's created, they've been approved. Let's get this sent out to people that are doing the task, that are doing the job, that are working on that project. We want to make sure that we're getting their signatures often, and let me know in the chat how you're all doing this. I'd imagine it's just print them off and get a signature. Unfortunately, it does usually mean that that signature page probably never ends up back in the office again. This just closes that loop of RAMs being created, sent out to site, and being essentially sort of given a thumbs up. So what we could do is you add the name of the individual, get signatures. Two ways of this working. It could either be sent out via email for them to sign, or you could be on site. Site manager logs into the system and one by one, pass an iPad around, each person sign off on their name. But what would happen? We can sign now. This is the final RAMs that we've created. It's that 4-step process that we ran through. We selected all that info. It's pulled that information all together for us. Saved you a huge amount of time in formatting, no copy and pasting, no dragging and dropping. And it's created for us this RAMs. Obviously, you'd have your own logos. You could also put a header page on here as well. So if you wanted to make it a little bit more jazzy with some of your own branding on there, that you could put a header page on. But here, as we go through, got the details about the job, nearest A&E, come through to the method statement. Everything's formatted for us, so you don't have, once again, don't have to worry about copy pasted. As we come off the back of the method statement, we come through to our risk assessment. 5x5 grid gets displayed for us, and then the risk assessments are just laid out in a really straightforward, professional-looking manner. Really easy for the team to pick up and really understand exactly what the risks are and what they need to be looking out for. Signature page on the back. And then we've also got our cost assessment in here as well. So this is the information that we've input, and then this is being pulled through all of the safety data sheet information as well. Any questions on the formatting? Let me know. So we've run through the process. In this case, me as a contracts manager, I'm happy to get to work. I've understood the risks. What I can do, and let me try and turn my camera off so I can do this for this next bit. What the system would actually do is it'll actually take an image of the person that signed that document. I can do the scribble, hit sign, and then that is essentially the team signing off on that document. You've got that proof to show that it's been signed. If at any point, touch wood, it doesn't happen, but there was ever an incident on site, you can go back to that RAMS. First of all, find it easily. It's not in a glove box in a van, never seen again. But you can find that RAMS, you can find the signatures, date and time stamps. And if you want to go that one step further of images, and you don't have to use the image part, but then you've got that info there as well. That is pretty much a quick run through of the process of building, distributing a RAMS and editing one. You do have the ability to download as a PDF if you want your own version of your own servers. You can also email this document out directly from HandsHQ to your clients as well. Any questions, then feel free to throw those in. There's a few other bits to sort of mention. One bit to mention, and this is another product, something that I'm doing a demo for on Thursday, is our training register. So the ability to track, manage training rather than having big Excel spreadsheets. And it also links in with the RAMS as well. So we can see here that I've been selected as a contracts manager for this job, but it's pulled through to say my training is valid for the RAMS, which means my training is up to date. All of this is hosted in the training register. Sends out notifications as when training is due to expire. You can hold certificates in here as well. So when you create a RAMS for a job, assign an engineer to that job, it will also be able to pull through all of their training records and certificates to send over with the RAMS at the same time as well. If you want to sign up for that, then we got that on Thursday. Let me know if, tell you what, it's on our website, our training register section, and you can sign up for that here. So if you want to join on Thursday, it'd be great to see you. I'll put that one in the chat for everyone. So yeah, it'd be good to see you there as well. A few other bits on the RAM side of things. Obviously, I mentioned the risk register. This isn't available in all packages, so I won't go into too much detail on it today. It might be for further demos, we can look at that. But this gives you the ability to manage all of your risk assessments in a central location. So this would be like your library that everyone selects from. This is where you can manage that. So as a really good example, let's say, for example, there was a near miss for slip, trips and falls on one of your sites. You can go in here, update the near miss for slip, trips and falls. As soon as you make that update, anyone that's using an old version of that will be notified on the system that they need to update a risk assessment. And then equally, any new RAMs that are created will always be using the most up-to-date version of that risk assessment. So it's a really straightforward process to be able to update from mass, essentially. Onboarding process, we run full onboarding process where we take all of your existing risk assessments, method statement content, and we can pull that into the system for you. And we will also do full training. Anyone that would be a user, have a log into the system, will get training to show exactly how to use it, what every button does, and get the most out of the system. Yeah. I think that's pretty much most things. Any questions anyone has, then feel free to let me know. If you want an idea on pricing, then just whack in the chat, pricing, please. And even myself or one on the team can reach out to you and sort of give you a bit of an idea as to sort of where you're at. Price-wise, everyone's slightly different based on what their requirements are. So let us know in the chat. You know, either say pricing or call me, and we'll make sure that the team are first to give you a call. Next week, we are going to be at the health and safety event as well in Birmingham. Let me know in the chat if any of you are going to be there. If you are, it'd be great to see you. Please do come along to our stand. More than happy to sort of go into a little bit more detail about the product, answer any questions that you have. I'm just going to tell you all our stand number. It is... not that it would probably make any difference for you. I'm sure you're all going to be walking around anyway. And how can this be amended for Irish legislation? Yes, it certainly can do. So what we would do, once again, as part of that setup process, so you can see how easy it is in here. So if we go into general, these are all your risk assessments, but then you also have the method statements behind those as well. So where it's legislation, all you've got to do is send us that Irish legislation. We could take that information and essentially just remove this and replace it with your own legislation. So that's why we've got that flexibility to work globally. We work with a lot of businesses in Ireland, UK, Europe, Middle East, US, where they've got their own legislation. It's just a case of changing it here, and then that'll be replicated across all RAMs that you create. Pricing, of course, I can, even myself, one of the team will reach out to answer any questions that you have on that. Any final questions that anyone has at all? Cool. Well, I think we'll leave it there for now. As mentioned, even myself, one of the team will call later today, ask any questions that anyone might have, or set up further calls. Any questions you have in the meantime, let me know. Hopefully, I'll see some of you on the webinar on Thursday as well to look through the training register. We are stand 3G40, if that means anything to anyone. But we'll be there. You'll see our big stand with all the shiny lights and bits and pieces if you're going to be there next week. But otherwise, really appreciate everyone's time today. Thank you for all your questions and engagement as well. And look forward to speaking to you soon and yeah, giving you a bit more info on HandsHQ. Speak to you soon, guys. Bye bye.